Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, An Introduction to the Officers Association. My name is Clive Lowe, and I'm joined today by Lee Holloway, our Chief Executive, Laura Blair, our Employment Director, and Lauren Blake, our Membership Director. Now, today's webinar will, An Introduction to the OA, will cover a brief history of the OA, our services, how we can support you, and officers, both service leavers and veterans, a little bit about our future plans. And then, as I said, there's an opportunity for you to ask questions. And we would also welcome your suggestions and comments. And we will look at these after the event. So without further ado, can I hand over to our Chief Executive, Lee Holloway.
Good morning, everybody. So, Clive, thank you very much for the introduction there and explaining how we're going to start this. I will give you start with just giving you a very short background for those who don't know the full reason for the OA being here, if you like. So the OA is now something like just over 100 years old, and founded to help those officers who were trying to find employment, mostly after the First World War. The requirements was for those officers who obviously officers who held a full commission and as well as their dependents. And it was started by the chiefs of the armed forces at the time, a triumvirate almost of the Navy, the Army, and a newly formed Air Force, and it was highly effective. The charity was given a royal charter almost immediately, and there were initial talks for the OA to become almost a part of the Royal British Legion, but this didn't actually happen, although the relationship over the years has been quite involved and quite extensive, if somewhat on occasion quite informal and fractious. But I'll go into that a bit more later. So as well as helping find those officers who leave the military employed roles, we also have a benevolent side which helps those officers and their dependents who have, if you like, fallen on hard times and need some sort of financial or even just general social assistance. But the important thing is this support we give is through life, from beginning to end, from the day they join until literally the day they die, that we are here to help them. So how do we operate? Well, the basis of the operation of the OA was the relationship with the Royal British Legion. The relationship started in an odd way in that we actually we gave the Royal British Legion significant funds to start up in 1919. We also handed over our membership function. In return, we were given a percentage of what was then called the street collection of the Poppy Fund. Over the years, this arrangement changed, it altered, it reduced, it expanded, but never on a really formal basis, as we learnt later. And when I took over, and for about 30 years preceding me taking over, the OA was mainly funded by 60% of our funding came from the Royal British Legion, and we would receive 7.5% of the street collection of the Poppy Fund. That agreement was in place until about 2 or 3 years ago, when the Royal British Legion informed us that agreement was no longer going to be honoured. We reluctantly agreed, if you like, a parting resolution where they gave us a set amount of funds, and within 5 years, that means from 2 years ago, by 2024, actually, the funding from the Royal British Legion will stop completely. So that provided us, or put us in a position where we had to do something about it. So what I'll do now is moving on how we change, what we're changing to and how we change. First of all, we are going to focus almost entirely on the employment side of the charity services. And we will be winding down over the years the benevolent sector department, getting it to a point where we can still assist, but what we assist with and how we assist is both affordable for the OA, it's not duplicated anywhere in the sector, and it remains relevant. But it's got to be within the affordability range of what the OA can earn. So how are we going to replace that funding? What we're going to do is, let me go back a little bit, because what is obvious to us is that following the normal charitable funding routes are just not practical for the Officers Association. Shaking it in and asking it for £1 in Victoria Station for poor old Colonel Smithers Watson isn't going to spin. There's still a perception, undeserved or not, that officers are both wealthy, usually some sort of minor aristocracy, I'm not sure about that, but there's a class perception that it still exists, and it will exist for some time. Although it's changing, it will continue to exist. So what I've decided with the agreement of the OA board is we're going to form and operate a funding base is going to be, have more of a commercial base. So we're developing funding streams. And those funding streams, I won't go into great detail, but it'll be, income will be derived from a schedule of charges or fees relating to employers, the employers who actually want to put jobs to the OA and to the officer corps. We are resurrecting the membership scheme, which we're entitled to do now because, you know, we no longer have an agreement with the Royal British Legion. We are considering, in fact, we are piloting a whole raft of commercial training services and courses, which will be appropriately credited, and will be either funded at least partially or net off the cost through the use of enhanced learning credits. We have invested in and started up commercial business in civilian recruitment. This recruitment company has no requirement to meet the charitable aims of the charity. It is completely civilian, completely commercial. It's there is to operate and grow as a business. We own 100%, and the income from that business will come into the OA as funds. We have the Lady Grover Fund. We currently are the administrators for the Lady Grover Fund, and we are talking to the Lady Grover Fund about a closer relationship and actually sort of trying to find a way to integrate them into the Officers Association. The Lady Grover Fund is there for officers and their dependents. It's a friendly society which pays out in cases of almost critical illness, if you like. So we're seeking to deregulate that so that it's able to fall within the responsibility of the Officers Association. We're obviously starting, the one area of normal funding, if you like, more formal funding that we can follow is legacy funding. We do get left legacies, and we'll seek to expand that capability. Donations and sponsorship is now an ongoing thing where we now ask for donations. We never used to. And obviously then we'll look for further commercial opportunities as we go forward. Now, every single one of these streams has been supported by in-depth research by an independent but relevant research company. So for instance, the membership scheme was supported, and it was tested for its viability by an appropriate company. And where that company, whatever the individual scheme was, told us that that idea was viable, we then proceeded to build the structure and the policies to enable to launch that particular income stream. So it's been tested, and I'm happy to say at least the first one, which is now up and running, the income derived from the employers, is very successful under Laura Blair, and in fact is starting to exceed our expectations. It's enabled us to form extremely close professional relationship with a growing number of employers, and enabling us to really enhance the quality of the jobs and the spread of the jobs to our jobs board, which in itself has been updated, had a considerable amount of funds spent on a new jobs board, which is actually just one part of a whole a platform which will be devoted to the officers who become members and the officer corps in general who use the OA's services. One thing I would say about membership, although we're turning the OA into a paid membership, we are not forgetting our charitable aims. Any officer or their dependents that are still unemployed after 12 months of leaving the military will get free access to all membership, all services, all courses will be funded by the OA in total. So we're keeping the charitable aspects of what we do safe. What we are keen to do is maintain a good relationship and collaborate with those other agencies such as the Careers Transition Partnership, DRM, the MOD, the Office of Veteran Affairs, and so on. Very critical to us that we maintain a good relationship. We would like to be in a position where we can exchange data. We are aware that of all the officers that come to us, for instance, a good example, that a proportion, an unknown proportion, but there is a proportion that come to us and say they did not utilise the CTP services. We would like to encourage them and have it agreed that we encourage them to get in touch with the CTP, use the services offered, and therefore, if you like, make maximum use of what is a contracted service by the Ministry of Defence for people leaving the services. Yes, it's 2 years before and 2 years after, but it still shows there's a particular point in leaving the military or preparing to leave the military where the CTP is vital to the veterans leaving. So it's very important to us that this relationship involves not only sharing of information, but possibly of data. And I'm sure we can help each other because we would expect the CTP to refer people to the OA. We'd also like to explore where we are stronger or weaker than the services of the CTP, and the CTP is stronger in some areas and possibly weak in others. It depends on the form of the contract, obviously. What we are seeking to do is to really strengthen the services that we provide, and considerable time, money and effort is being done in reviewing our services. One of the backbone services we provide are the career consultations. I instigated a mystery shopping exercise about a year ago involving 3 officers who were serving from a lieutenant general down to a squadron leader from all 3 services, and they went to the market and they obtained commercial services that are paid for by the OA, but they obtained commercial equivalent of what we provide, and to a certain extent what CTP do provide. And the aim was to for us to find out what is out there in the marketplace that people are using. We want to be able to compare the quality of our services, the breadth of our services, and once we understand that, we can take the good bits, we can strengthen where we are weak, and we can offer much, much higher quality and focused services to the officer corps. I'd also say this has went alongside a piece of research to the officer corps themselves, asking them what they wanted, what they did not think was there now, what they wanted. We've always insisted on the past, and I think we have to blame here for the OA, not blame, but something we should have done. We've always assumed that we knew what officers wanted. I couldn't find any record of us asking them what they thought they wanted. That was done. We've now got a good idea. Compare that with the mystery shopping exercise, a lot of internal analysis, new staff being hired, put together with the new jobs board and the platform, the membership. It'll put the OA in a much, much better place, and hopefully a better place where we can enhance that collaboration with the various outside agencies, if you like. I think that on the whole, I've probably covered, I'm not sure how long I've been talking, but I think that's all I've got to say at the moment. So I will hand over to the next person and I'll be here for questions later.
Thank you, Lee. My name is Laura Blair. I'm the Employment Director of the Officers Association. I joined August last year, so I've been in post just under 6 months. A few years ago, I also worked as the Chief Operating Officer for RFEA, the Forces Employment Charity, and it is an absolute pleasure to be back in the military charity sector, and in particular, the area of employment. Next slide, please, Victoria. So I coordinate the employment department within the Officers Association, and I do that by working closely with our marketing department and also our Director of Membership. Now, my team consists of 3 key elements working together to generate really positive, sustainable relationships with employers in order to generate rewarding career opportunities for our officer cohort, whether they are service leavers or whether they are officer veterans. So my team split into 3 areas. I have a team of key account managers that are based in different areas of the UK, and they engage with employers around the country and across a variety of industry sectors, whether that's defence, tech, IT, logistics, engineering, Internet of Things, AI. And that is about generating those sustainable relationships with those employers to generate opportunities, quality opportunities for our officer community. The other part of my team is the team of career consultants that we have. And as Lee said, that they are the absolute backbone of what we do as a military employment charity. They provide a really personalised one-to-one career consultation for officers, whether that's in the form of a detailed CV review, a session on interview techniques, salary negotiation, how to use LinkedIn best to raise their job-seeking profile. And the third part of my team is centered around event management. Now, we run a variety of different events throughout the year that range from webinars on interim management, LinkedIn essentials, up to our flagship virtual because of COVID at the minute, virtual employment forums that draw 150 plus active officer job seekers to our doors. And the real focus on our event strategy is to actively connect job seekers to employers who want to hire. So it's connecting employers directly to officer talent. Now, in each of those areas, whether it's employer engagement, career consultations, event management, and this is a really important point for us, we are absolutely focused on collaboration, and we are not, and we don't seek to reinvent what the highly successful service and provision that is already out there. The last thing I want to do is confuse employers or confuse job seekers. So we are looking to complement what's already out there and if anything, add an additional layer of support to officers seeking employment. We are developing some really joined up relationships with Defence Relationship Management. We have a really positive relationship with CTP. We've already passed some employer contacts over from employers who want to provide access to their jobs to the complete wide range of service leavers, and that's really important to us. So those employers would now be advertising on Right Job. We also collaborate significantly with other military charities. We are part of the COBSEO employment cluster, which is very important to us, and we have a very strong relationship with OA Scotland north of the border as well. We've also worked with charities such as Walking with the Wounded with regards to the Step Into Health project. So as the slide outlines, once an officer is registered with the Officers Association, they can do that before they leave, during they leave, or 3, 5, 10 years after they leave. They can register with us as a veteran as well. It's interesting in the context of COVID, in the context of what is a volatile, uncertain, complex space at the minute. We've noticed actually from March last year and throughout the lockdown period of COVID, normally we have a healthy balance of officer service leavers coming to access our services and veterans as well. We saw a shift last year, which was more veterans coming to us who may have been out a few years, cut their teeth in the commercial world, had either been furloughed, made redundant, or were seeking a fresh challenge in the middle of COVID. So we saw an increase in officer veterans coming to use our services last year, and less officer service leavers, probably because they had actually decided to delay their resettlement journey out of the military until the economy picked up. January this year, we've seen that begin to balance out, and we're back to that healthy balance of service leavers coming out and accessing our services, and also veterans as well. Indeed, we're also seeing more officers who haven't yet pressed the button on JPA, but are considering it. So they're in the thinking space, but they haven't committed yet. But they can still come to us as well to gain an insight into the jobs market, test their CV with one of our career consultants. So we're back to that healthy balance of officer service leavers and officer veterans. I've touched on what the career consultants do and also what we do in events. The other area I'd like to mention, and you'll see it there in bullet point 3, is our network contact list. We have 700 plus officers on our network contact list, and if an officer registers with us to use our services, they gain direct access to that contact list. It's a unique directory of former officers who work across a variety of different industry sectors in a variety of different roles, from middle management right up to CEO level. And they have volunteered to put their name and their contact details on that network contact list so that they can be contacted by other officers coming out who seek to gain a better understanding of a particular industry sector or what it's like to work in a certain company, be that Goldman Sachs, BAE, the NHS, etc. So that network contact list is a really useful tool that officers might seek to use if they register with us. It focuses in on what we're trying to do on the networking space. We, pre-COVID, ran Christmas networking drinks. We're looking at doing something, hopefully the back end of this summer and Christmas. And our networking opportunities, particularly when they're face-to-face, give a really good opportunity for job seekers who are actively looking at certain companies. We invite employers to the networking events as well. So it's all about connecting the employer to the officer job seeker. And if they register with us, they can gain access to those networking events as well. Finally, just to touch on our executive jobs board. Again, if an officer registers with us, they gain direct access to our jobs board. Last year, we generated just over 1,500 vacancies. And my absolute focus this year is to continue to increase that number and increase the breadth and the depth and the quality of the roles that are on there. Normally, the roles that are on there for officers are 40,000 and above, up to 100, 150K. We also have part-time opportunities, NED opportunities, and opportunities to be trustees as well. So really focusing on increasing the breadth and depth of them. Some of the companies that are currently advertising with us range from BAE, NHS, Amazon, BT, P-Cubed, JCB, TSG Marine, a variety. And we're actively focused on generating opportunities that really suit officers' career aspirations when they leave the military. Now, Lee mentioned briefly, employers work with us now in a number of different ways, depending on what the employer wants. So we have employers that want to post jobs directly onto our jobs board, and they do that monthly, quarterly, and that employer manages the recruitment process. But their jobs on our jobs board are actively raising their profile to our officer community. We also have employers who work with us now in a sponsorship way. So we have Jacobs, the engineering company, is a great example. They are the headline sponsor for our Women into Employment event, which is running on the 10th of March, and I'll talk more about that briefly. And we have other employers that want to, again, actively raise their profile with the officer community, and are interested in sponsoring other events that we're running, such as our next virtual employment forum on the 22nd of April. Some employers also come directly to us to source specific talent, officer talent, for a vacancy that they have. Now, in the last 3 months, we've done quite a lot of that sourcing, matching, and placing directly for a company. We've placed 5 officers with the NHS based on a COVID requirement, a fastball COVID requirement. 2 officers, one who was a veteran, one who's just transitioned out into an Internet of Things company that is expanding across the UK and Europe. We've placed officers into tech companies, IT companies, and a construction company as well. So that is another service that we offer employers. And it's important to us because what we're also doing then is really articulating a successful employment outcome for an officer. And that's really important to us. We also do that because our key account managers work very closely with our career consultants to really actively match and connect an officer to the right vacancy that suits their aspirations. Very briefly, our new recruitment services platform, which our executive jobs board now sits on, that is all about providing an enhanced service to both the employer and to the job seeker as well. An employer can now create their own account on our jobs board, upload their own vacancies. Our officer job seekers can upload their own CV. The career consultant, in preparation for their meeting with the officer, can view the CV, look at the jobs that officer's applied for, and begin to really, before they've even met them, understand where that officer wants to go and importantly why. We're only in phase 1 of that recruitment services platform. Phase 2 and phase 3 will develop throughout the rest of this year. And by the time we get to phase 3, late summer, we should also have in that jobs board and that platform things like online profiling tools that officers will be able to use as well to really understand where their skill sets and strengths suit and what types of industry or companies that they could or should be looking at. And that's what the new platform looks like there. Once you've registered with us, you can log on as an officer, search jobs, you can book a career consultation, you can view our event schedule and sign up for our events. Next slide, please, Victoria. This is available in a PDF guide, 3 steps to career success, and I'll ensure that post this webinar, we get the electronic PDF version sent out to you, and there may be officers that you're dealing with at the minute that would like to use this and read it. Next slide, please, Victoria. We also contribute to a variety of resettlement magazines. Pathfinder is a really good example. We have written some articles in there. We do that on a regular basis now. The latest one we've written is written to coincide with International Women's Day on the 8th of March. And I want to thank CTP for helping to advertise and support us with what is our Women into Employment event, which we're running on the 10th of March. It's open to officers. It's also open to all ranks. It's open to reservists and it's open to spouses. We have 244 registered to attend at the minute. Over 60% of those are female officers, half transitioning out of the military, some who are already out in the commercial world and are looking to see what else is out there in the market. We also have military-friendly employers attending, women in business, a variety of different people. I would like to extend all of you an invite to attend as well. It's free and I'll send the link after this webinar. This is the event that's sponsored by Jacobs, the engineering company, and we also have sponsorship involvement from other organisations such as the London Business School, MOD Abbey Wood, Goldman Sachs, Balfour Beatty, JP Morgan, Braze as examples. And on this event, we run a transition panel where females who have successfully transitioned out tell their transition story. And we run employer panels, employers who have got jobs now active and want to promote them to the ex-military community. And we're running an executive insight panel as well. So please do help us spread the word. We've also got our next virtual employment forum, which is coming up on the 22nd of April. That event as well is sponsored by a defence company. I am going to wrap up now, and I hope that was a useful overview on the employment space within the Officers Association and what we're seeking to achieve. And it really is about complementing and collaborating. And what we don't want to do is confuse an employer or a job seeker. But there is a raft of different resources that officers can use when they register and log on to the Officers Association. And employers as well. So thank you for listening. I'm now going to hand over to Lauren Blake, who is our Director of Membership.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Laura. It's lovely to meet you all, and like Laura, I haven't been at the OA too long. I started my position as Membership Director late September, so I'm just coming up to 5 months. And really, I've spent those 5 months exploring the OA, understanding our current position, and really focusing on what the OA can do further to engage the customer, whatever point they are at in their resettlement, within the military, leaving the military. In order to develop and deliver a successful membership, I also need to understand how we currently engage. And I think, as Lee mentioned, although it is important for us to raise an income through any membership scheme, we do really view a membership, probably more importantly, as being a key channel to help us develop a community of officers and OA supporters who we can engage with on a day-to-day basis, signpost to other provisions that are out there to help support them and give them the best experience that they can have, whether they're still in the military, looking to leave the military, or as Laura pointed out, maybe 5, 10, 20 years into their life in the commercial world. So the three main areas of how I'm looking at this is, firstly, is looking at how do we increase OA awareness. And not only will we be using our key marketing channels in order to reach key audiences and engage those audiences, it's going to be incredibly exciting to actually work with existing provisions and other military charities to support officers and educate them and the wider audience on who we are, what we do, how we can help, and how we can complement all the other services that are available to the officers in the marketplace. We also need to increase our audience reach and the engagement that we have with our audience. Currently, we have approximately 9,000 to 10,000 people on the OA database. Of those, we communicate regularly with about 5,000 to 6,000 of those individuals on a weekly basis, with a steady 2,500 to 3,000 individuals always seeing active, whether they're active and new or active and returning to the OA to access some of our services. So it's a big drive for me to increase that audience reach, make it as easy as possible for somebody to engage with the OA and be kept up to date with what we're doing and the services that we can provide. Another element of that is also to understand our audience. Something that, admittedly, we probably, and Laura and Lee have both mentioned this, we don't know exactly to this day, exactly how we can engage with our audiences. But I strongly feel that the more we understand our audiences, the more we can understand their needs and their requirements, it will really help us tailor not only the communication that we send to these individuals, but the services that we offer these individuals to make sure that we are offering them the correct services at the right time in their life cycle of employment. And I also feel that the more that we can grow our audience reach, the more that we can engage with these individuals, it will give us more opportunities to signpost other opportunities, not only from the OA, but from the CTP and other military charity provisions. So hopefully we can really present to the customer a positive and collective experience. Another element that I'm obviously here looking at is the future of a membership at the OA. As Lee previously mentioned, last year they did work before I arrived. They worked with a specialist consultancy firm to put out a survey to our OA database, and it showed some really positive results. And one of the key standout results was that up to 72% of the current OA database last year would be willing to pay in order to access some of the services we provided. We also got a really interesting insight into how these individuals value the services that we provide and also what else they would like to see as part of that offer. So since I started in September, as mentioned, I've been working closely with my colleagues, exploring the business, looking at what other memberships and functionalities do offer in this space. And what we are hoping to do is to generate a model that we will be able to release into the marketplace later this year to start that membership journey. Now, of course, that will only be phase one. So we will be focusing on some key audience segments in order to convert and engage with membership. But of course, phase one is only the beginning, and we would hope to progress to a membership where we have more products on offer to assist individuals at any point in their career. And as Lee also mentioned, we are also very aware of our charitable work, and we would make membership available to any individuals that may find themselves struggling or out of employment for 12 months or more, and they will be invited to join the OA and get all benefits provided to them for free to really ensure that we can help them find their place and find a career that's right for them. Now, just moving on to the slide that you're looking at now, this is potentially a model that we're exploring. We did go out again in a second survey just at the end of last week to test this potential model with our current OA database. We've already had a brilliant response from our OA database with a really, and still many of those individuals showing a willingness to pay for the product. But what you can see here is a 3-tier membership where not only do we want to engage with officers and create a paid for product that allow them access into that really one-to-one and tailored support and services membership offer, but we're also looking at that OA supporter and OA member. So how can people start to begin their journey with the OA, engage with us for free, start understanding the services that we provide, how they can access those services, but also, as I've mentioned before, how can we start signposting other opportunities available to these individuals? You'll see that we've also added that OA supporter in. And I think at the moment, in order to engage with the OA, you must register. And in order to do that, you must be an officer. Now, what we are looking to do is, but we also know that we engage with many other people, spouses, people that may not quite be an officer, but still working in the military, as Laura mentioned, OA-friendly employers, and many other individuals. So we really want this membership to allow anybody who wishes to engage with the OA, understand that the work that the OA do, and allow them to engage with us and receive information from us and take them on that journey and allow them to play a role within the OA, whatever that role may be. So I say that survey is out in the market at the moment. We hope to have our results back early March, and then I will be spending March with my team looking and analysing those results and really drilling down on what this final product could be. Are people prepared to purchase it? Does it resonate with them? What are the price points that we should be offering? And also, what are those final benefits that we should be offering as part of those products? And I think what I have mentioned in my 2 slides today is staying in touch and creating a community of people with like-minded interests, but working within this area of OA, resettlement, employment. And therefore, one thing that we will be doing after today, is we will be reaching out to you all and inviting you to stay in touch with us. And if you would like to do that, that would be fantastic. And in return, we will make sure that we remain in contact with you, and we will be sending regular updates so you can track our progress and be kept up to date with our services, events, and other services that we will be offering those officers that we're engaging with. And of course, you can also play your role. And if you feel that currently you're engaging with officers that may be able to use our help, then of course, please sign them to the OA website, where they will find a very large suite of valuable content that they can access in their own time and without registration. But of course, the ideal would be for them to register with us so they can start accessing the jobs board, the career consultations, and the other services that Laura did highlight. So I'm really excited about the future. I think there's a lot to do. There are many areas available to us to start growing our audience, understanding our audience, and engaging that audience, but also looking at ways that we can engage more with yourselves about how we all collectively deliver the best possible customer journey for these individuals. So I believe that's the end of my slides. So again, I'll be happy to take any questions at the end of the presentation, but in the meantime, I will hand back to Laura to go over the next steps with you all. Thank you.
Lauren, thank you very much. To our audience members, thank you very much for attending. We really appreciate your feedback and would love to hear it on today's webinar, but also perhaps you've actually had a transition journey yourself through the Officers Association and would be really interested to hear what your experience has been and how you think we could further enhance and improve our services moving forward. Just to kind of summarize, we are here for officers of all ranks, from the most junior lieutenant who may be an early service leaver, wounded, injured and sick, right up to the most senior, and they can access us at any point in time during their career, military or civilian. And I think the key point is if they do register with us, they will gain a service that complements existing provision, and as membership develops, a real opportunity to be part of our officer community for life. Now, my email address is there, Lauren's email address is there. Please do contact us, tell us what you think, and importantly, tell us what you need from us. We have marketing collateral we can send across that you might want to then distribute to those officers that are on your caseload, but we're happy to help in any way at all. And thank you very much for attending. I'm going to hand over to Clive now, in case we've had any questions, Clive, from any of the audience members.
Yeah, thank you very much, Laura. Lauren and Lee, would you like to go on camera? Thank you very much. Just a handful of questions, which we've had, but if there's any more questions you'd like to post, please use the Q&A function. Also, if you've got any comments or suggestions on what you've heard, please also use the Q&A function to let us know. So the first question, if I could address this to Lee, how do you see the OA in 10 to 20 years' time? How will you remain relevant to the future armed forces?
Very good question. 10 years time, what I find is that 10 years is an extraordinarily long time in the sector. Couple of simple observations about the sector itself. There are far too many charities doing the same things, which I'm not a big fan of. I can see, as Laura said, a lot about collaboration. I think that there has to be more collaboration. We have to stop duplication of services. And if it enables one charity or agency to be absolutely strong and experts in one particular area and we work in something else, that's fine. It just enables us to focus and use our funds more effectively. At the end of the day, it's the beneficiary, in our case, the officer or their dependent, that really benefits from this. But there is an awful lot of duplication, which I'm not so sure of. The charity itself, as I said, it may, in 5 years' time, may not have any benevolence function directly from the OA, but it depends on how we're able to find the funds and how we're able to identify a genuine need that is not being covered by another charity. If we can do that, that capability will continue with the OA. Otherwise, we have a set of funds which are an endowment fund, for that, which we could, in theory, give to those charities to deliver the benevolence aspects, elements on behalf of the OA. We'll be focused totally on employment, but not yet. I am under instruction by my board, but the current plan is the OA retains a grants and welfare benevolence capability, but its focus is definitely on the employment side. What is important for us is to make sure that we are the go-to charity for officers, but in a way that collaborates with those other agencies. I don't know what the next CTP contract is going to be in 10 years' time, to be honest with you. I suspect it's not going to be quite the same as it is now, but I don't know that. So try not to waffle too much, but I'd be able to answer the question better probably in 4 years' time. What my job right now is to move the OA to a position within 5 years where it has the flexibility, the flexibility and ability to go in any particular direction which the environment requires at that given time. When I arrived, the OA was actually rather stuck in the mud place. It was more of a club. Wasn't very technically capable. The processes weren't that good. They were good at the time, but they're not right for now. So it's all about making this organisation efficient, relevant, and flexible. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you very much, Lee. Yes, it does. Thank you. One for you, Laura. You mentioned in your presentation that the events are being run virtually because of COVID. So once lockdown is lifted, and we've heard Boris Johnson's announcing it yesterday, do you see your online events going back to being live events, or will you try and retain a mix of live and online events?
Great question. To answer it simply, I'd like a combination of both. There is nothing more powerful than being in a room with an employer when you're actively job seeking and that connection is made. And I know that our officers value that enormously. So a combination of both. I would also like to continue running virtual events because I know actually they're easier to access because you can do it from the comfort of your own living room if you need to. So a combination of both. And a variety of different events within our event schedule, whether that is a very bespoke webinar linked to portfolio management, to something that focuses in on how to use LinkedIn to the best of your abilities to raise your profile, or a flagship virtual employment forum where we gain a mass audience. And there are a number of different employers there actively looking to recruit officer talent. And within that events piece, I would include networking as well, and the power of networking. So I am counting the days down till we can have a Christmas cocktail party to create those networking opportunities for our officers and our employers. So yes, Clive, a combination of both.
Lovely, thank you, Laura. I'll ask this one back to you, Lee, if I may.
Yeah.
You mentioned assistance to those who've fallen hard times during your presentation. As a charity, do you think the OA will still offer employment services to those in need?
Always. Always and definitely. I think what we have to do is realise that we have to understand what we meant by those in need. You know, some people may not be able to get employment through for a variety of reasons, through just downright bad luck, family circumstances. They may be member of the wounded, injured and sick community. They may be just restricted in what they can do to get a job. In other words, move house or go to a different region. So what we would have to do is, I think, start to try and focus some of our capability to help those who are the more, I hesitate with hardened cases, but those who genuinely have a greater need than your average major, lieutenant colonel, whatever, leaving the army, who on the whole has everything going for him or her. Some of our beneficiaries just don't have that degree of flexibility, sometimes through no fault of their own.
Thank you, Lee. Lauren, one for you, if I may. The OA is known for providing valuable one-to-one career consultations. With your new membership model that you described earlier, will service leavers have to register with the OA before they can book an appointment with a career consultant?
Yeah, thanks, Clive. Yes, the answer is yes. That is incredibly likely. As I mentioned, we are currently in the market with the OA database, testing what our potential final product will look like. We know consultations alongside the jobs board and our events are three of the most highly valued services that we currently offer. And it's always with membership is getting that push and pull right. You need to offer as much in front of the paid wall to still be offering services to engage and attract and acquire, but you also need to keep some of your most valuable assets behind the paid wall to actually drive individuals to engage and actually remain engaged throughout their membership. Let's say if we did a 12-month membership, to engage throughout that cycle. But I think even if we do, and as I say, I think it is likely that it would be that individuals have to register with us in order to access the full suite of consultations that we do offer, I still feel that it's incredibly good value, especially when you compare the costs of consultations, career coaching, CV reviews to the commercial world and what some individuals do charge for people to access those services. And also I feel that if it were part of the wider membership product, actually what we would also be giving those individuals is a complementary suite of services, not only the consultation, but to really help provide the full 360 of services to help them achieve what they want, whether that's finding employment, assessing their current career, exploring new opportunities. And I think the consultations work stronger when surrounded by those complementary benefits. So the straight answer is yes, more than likely, but I think it will be worth it and it's of value.
Thanks, Lauren. One for you, Laura, if I may. Which is your most popular service that's used? Is there a common pattern of common resettlement issues that officers come to you for help with?
Really interesting question. It's about them really trying to understand where their fit is in the marketplace and how you take that significant arsenal of skills that have been developed in the military and how you articulate those really clearly to a civilian employer. So we do a lot of work around the career consultants, do a lot of work around how to really shape a CV so that it stands out and it jumps out when people go for industry. It is a really competitive market at the minute in the context of COVID. So that CV has become really important. The other area we would really focus in on is how you present yourself in an interview and how you sell your skill set. And I think the third one is we do a lot of work on helping people shape what their LinkedIn profile looks like, because employers do look at that footprint on social media. So those are the three things. But I think the most important one for us, and certainly the career consultants, is finding that fit and recognizing that actually the skill set that has been developed in the military is significant, and people have a lot to talk about and be proud of.
Sorry, taking time to unmute. My apologies. Thank you very much, Laura. I think just one more question before I hand back to Lee to close out this webinar. This one is for you, Lee. Is the OA planning to run training courses in the future, such as financial or project management?
Yeah, so currently we are piloting 2 courses in May, and they've been specifically designed to provide the sort of formal commercial skill set that many officers say they don't get a job. The reason they don't get a job is because they were told they had no commercial experience. It's also there to overcome that perception. It's a false perception, a perception by employers that yes, they're great people and they are highly skilled, but they have no commercial experience. So we're trying to get them over that lump. So these courses, if the pilot is successful, we would get them accredited so that they can be accessed via the enhanced learning credits. And therefore, what we're doing is increasing the capability of the Officers Association. We will probably, if this avenue we're going down is successful, we'll probably turn this into far more of a priority capability for the OA. So I could see the capabilities being, the career consultation, helping the officers as they come in, they leave, the jobs board and the membership element, and the training element. So finding them jobs, helping them get the jobs, and getting them trained, or at least giving them the qualifications where they can more of a chance of achieving the job itself. So definitely, yes, we're just going to take it a step at a time and make sure that what we deliver is wanted, is relevant, and is quality. It's quality of everything. I will not condone us doing anything half-baked or cheaply. It's got to be done at a very high quality, and we've got to get to the point where it's why wouldn't you do it rather than why would you?
That's great, Lee. Thank you very much indeed. I think I'll close the questions there. Laura, Lauren, Lee, thank you very much for your answers. Lee, can I hand back to you just to run through the upcoming events and close out? Thank you, please.
Sure. So if next slide comes up. So these are the events that are going to happen over March and April. As Laura has pointed out, the Women into Employment event will be coming on Wednesday, 10th of March. For us, it's quite a big thing, and it's proving to be popular, not only amongst those who want to attend, but the beneficiaries themselves, but women of all ranks and the employer community itself. We have the webinar on interim management with Simon Berry on the Tuesday, 16th of March. Interim management is something that quite a few officers consider getting into, especially if they're at let's just say the more senior stages of their career, as something that there's a growing market for. LinkedIn Essentials workshop, we do these quite regularly, and as Laura said, LinkedIn is becoming almost a natural part of the process of getting a job these days, so very important for us. A virtual employment forum on the 22nd of April, one of our flagship events. So that's developing at the moment. We'll have hopefully quite senior key speakers there. And as always, we'll try and make the elements of the forum relevant to those who attend. Onboarding officers, a non-executive director course. This is something the OA piloted a couple of years ago. Very successful. It is accredited to, so the enhanced learning credits can be used. Onboarding officers of the company we've outsourced this to. They do it in 2 ways. One, they deliver sometimes a bespoke course just for the officer course and our candidates, and they also deliver to really any member of the civil communities as well, and these are often mixed up. And as always, we on an annual basis, we sponsor courses with ex-forces for the basics in self-employment and showing people how they can access not only what's out there, but government funding, and show them some of the initial processes and things they should consider when they're looking at setting up a business. So quite a full program for April. And although it's not on here, as I did mention, we have the pilot commercial courses in May. And if you want to point people at these courses, please do so. We'd like to see people there just so we can see how well they work and where we're going to go to in the future. So hopefully that gives you an explanation of what's coming soon. So thank you, Clive.
Thank you, Lee. So that concludes the webinar today. Thank you all very much for attending, and thank you for your questions. And my thanks to Lee, Laura and Lauren for participating, for their presentations and for taking part in the panel. So I'd like to wish you all the very best for the rest of today, and thank you for joining us.